Hi, morning everyone. My name's Philippa Glover and I'm the Managing Director at CNC Robotics. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. This is a bit strange because I can't kind of see anyone, but let's go with it. So I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about robotics and how kind of robotics is changing the landscape and give you some kind of examples of the robotics and the space that we sit in. So before I start, one of the things that I just wanted to give you a bit of context is around kind of where we sit in the UK in terms of the number of robots deployed. And we're actually really quite low, which is a real challenge from a productivity perspective, and it, has the potential to hold us back. So in terms of the number of robotics deployed, we don't even feature on the graph versus some of our peers in the G7 nations. And that's something that we as a manufacturing and kind of innovation community are talking a lot with kind of government and various regional bodies to really try and encourage and accelerate the adoption of digital technology such as robotics to really help companies make products smarter and more effectively. You guys are lucky being based within Cumbria, is that if you're a manufacturing and engineering business at the moment, there is support available through Made Smarter, which is a government-funded initiative to help encourage manufacturing SMEs to adopt industrial digital technologies. Robotics is one element of that, additive manufacturing, kind of software and other hardware to really help kind of exploit the advantages that robotics can bring. So when we talk about robotics and automation, people often have quite a classical view in their head. So they often think about kind of automotive lines and production lines and thinking about robotics in that scale. But actually, robotics is utilised across all industries. And there isn't really any process that you can't necessarily use a robot for. Some processes would be much better to be done by other tools. But the examples that I'm going to talk to you today is about the field that we specialise in. And we specialise in advanced machining applications. So this isn't often where people classically think about where you use robotics. So just a little bit of context about, the business that I run. So CNC Robotics is an SME. We're a 20-person business and we're based in Liverpool. We used to be in this lovely building opposite Aintree Racecourse, and we've literally just moved. So you'll see a white wall behind me, and that's because I'm in my new office. I've also got a giant lobster if you wanted to see. So if you ever wanted to come and see us and have pictures with Larry the lobster, I'd love to show you around and show you what some of our systems and the team get up to. So that picture does need updating, but we're still in Aintree, so not that far away from you guys up in Cumbria. And as I said, we specialise in robotic machining solutions. And the reason why we do that is over 11 years ago, Jason Barker, our CTO and founding owner, had a theatre set construction business. So imagine large-scale theatre film sets. So that lobster is actually from Dr. Dolittle, and he used to work on the likes of Kylie and Beyonce's World Stage Tour. And at the time, he was looking for a low-cost way to be able to machine those parts. He didn't have a huge amount of money to be able to invest in capital equipment, and he also didn't have a huge amount of time. And what he was having to work towards was really quite short deadlines to enable him to produce those parts for the various different events that he was part of. And he was on the set of a James Bond film, kid you not. Unfortunately, I don't get to go on those in my role. And it was the film where Halle Berry is there. I think it's Tomorrow Never Dies. And there was a robot there with a laser on the end of it. And they were doing some kind of filming with that from a prop perspective. And he started to ask the engineer there around whether you could turn a robot into a milling machine. And the engineer, the tech said, absolutely not. There's no way you could get a robot to be able to do any level of accurate machining to enable you to produce parts effectively. And that was a bit like a red rag to a bull. Jason is your typical innovator, entrepreneur. and went, well, actually, I'm going to see whether you can do that, because I think there is a way you can get a robot to be able to machine, and I'm sure there's a way that you can get it to machine the parts that I need to make more cost effectively. So he bought a second-hand knackered robot, as much to his wife's pleasure, and started to investigate whether you could turn a robot into a milling machine. And worked evenings, weekends, any God-given hour to do that, and actually proved that you could. And whilst he still owned the sector construction business, he started to produce some of his parts using the advanced robotic machining solution that he had developed, but also started to provide those systems to other people in a similar field. And in time, actually, what he started to see that there was potential for real big demand for those types of systems. So he set CNC Robotics up, sold the previous business, and we have been making robots, we always say dance, ever since. And we've very much grown up within that advanced manufacturing environment, providing manufacturers across all sectors the ability to be able to machine with a robot, providing agile and a flexible solution in a cost-effective manner. So in terms of what would you typically expect when you talk to a robot integrator? So in terms of when you're talking to us, the types of solutions that we design and develop, so we've got a standard set of robotic solutions that we do. So you'd almost class them as catalogue products. So in the field that we represent, they would be standard advanced robotic machining solutions. But we also then sit in the research and development space, where we work with manufacturers and engineers to really create kind of bespoke robotic solutions to solve a specific challenge that they're facing. And at the moment, we're seeing quite a bit of opportunities within large-scale additive manufacturing using a robot, and we're doing kind of some work within that space, as well as some advanced trimming cells and capability for people in the electric vehicle market, as we start to accelerate the pace of adoption of those vehicles, both in the kind of personal kind of business use, but also in the commercial use. We also provide technical kind of consultancy and support, and then the most important one always is training, backup, and support. So often the technologies that I'm talking about, and technologies that people are talking about throughout this whole showcase are new. What's fundamental is that you and your teams really understand how that technology works and how to get the best out of that technology to help you understand what you need to do. So one of the things that I just wanted to touch on just around the technical consultancy and support is that, if you are in a business where you do think robotics and automation could potentially be something for you, one of the really important things that I always say to anyone within my network or our clients is to really start to go out and investigate what's possible. Go and see what other people have done. Go and see some demonstrators. We've got some fantastic manufacturers and some fantastic businesses here in the Northwest who have used technology such as robotics and have been able to accelerate their growth as a result, and that's created new opportunities. Even if that application of robotics is different to the field that you're looking at, it's always good to just understand how other people have tackled that problem and what kind of things they have learned along the way, and also start to kind of gather a bit of an understanding around what your ask is. What is the challenge that you're trying to solve? And that's where, people like me, often help with those conversations, just to help you start to articulate that. So when you are talking to businesses and robot integrators, you're able to, with confidence, to be able to know what you really, really need to do. But there's a wealth of support out there through various different kind of supported schemes and such as Made Smarter, and through the Catapult Network and Make UK, but also from companies like us. And often you can get that support for free, and it's just an initial conversation just to help you with that thinking. So as a company and as a 20 person business, you could probably imagine that we've got a lot on our hands. But one of the things that really drives us is actually our values, and our values are based around kind of 3 kind of key areas, and that's creativity, remaining focused, and that sheer tenacity to be able to solve challenges, and to really be able to push the boundaries from a robotic perspective. And hopefully you'll see this through some of the examples that I'm going to talk about. So just a bit of context. So we are a KUKA Platinum System Integration Partner, and even though we are small, we do have systems worldwide. And some of the systems that I'm going to be talking to you about today, aren't here in the UK, but actually are through that global reach. Although interestingly, since I've been with the business over the past 3 years, we've seen a huge amount of growth within the UK. And I think that's actually thanks to events like this and the community coming together to really try and encourage people to look at what technology can do for a business and how that can really help you create new opportunities which lead to employment and growth, and further revenue, which is something that everyone wants. So in terms of the types of clients that we work with, it really is eclectic. And from a business perspective, our business model is to focus on the tech that we're really good at. And that's driving robots accurately with software, that's providing advanced robotic machining systems, and in the additive space. That isn't kind of sector specific. It really is so broad and so diverse. And that's the great thing about these digital technologies, is that you can really learn from people across different industries and apply that learning into your own business. So I've just lost the so the first example I wanted to talk to you about is in our kind of roots, our creative roots, is Odyssey Studios. So Odyssey Studios are based over in Limerick, and they basically are a prop manufacturer. So they make large-scale props for the likes of Apple TV. And Mark there with the little beret actually produced a large proportion of the miniatures for Lord of the Rings. Absolutely amazing artist and engineer. And they invested in a robotic machining cell to help them be able to produce their large-scale props. But also what I really like about this example is that they also work closely with the Irish Tourism Board. And through the use of the system, they've been able to be part of some regeneration projects where they're able to produce replica components. So as the restoration team are doing work in Ireland, they're able to have those parts that are integral to the history of Ireland, which is absolutely fantastic and a great example of how, two people, it's a very small business, have been able to embrace digital technology and have used that from a creative perspective, but also from a science and engineering perspective. Another example is Carbolite Giro. So Carbolite are quite a well-known manufacturer of furnace ovens. So anyone with a laboratory who's on the phone will probably recognise that name. And they were looking for a way to be able to produce their thermal installations kind of more cost effectively. And the video that I will show at the end of this presentation shows actually how they have embraced a robotic machining cell alongside traditional technology. And actually this really has enabled them to address some of the health and safety challenges they had around machining this kind of composite material. But also it accelerated their cutting speed and increased that by 8 times faster. And the resulting kind of benefit of this system is not only did it have a positive impact on their kind of manufacturing output, it actually enabled their designers to be able to think differently because they weren't constrained by the traditional boundaries of a manufacturing method that was fixed and rigid. They were able to really produce things in that 3-dimensional space with the robotic arm. And that really has created new opportunities that they wouldn't have had they not invested in such advanced technology as this. Another example is a company based over in Bahrain who produce luxury yachts. And probably similar to Carbolite, they were looking for a way to be able to actually help their artist and their engineering team to be able to do the elements that really add value to the system. And that was kind of more in the detailing So through the investment of the robotic system, and as you can see here, it's actually a large-scale robot on a track, and to watch these work is really, really quite mesmerising. They have been able to really increase and accelerate output significantly and use their team to be able to do the more advanced work that the robot can't do. And that really has enabled them to be able to compete on a global scale. Another example is a water jet cutter for a leisure and automotive sector. So anyone that's been on the back end of the M6 or waiting to go into the Lake District with caravans, Big Bear Plastic actually make a lot of the parts for caravans. And through the advancements of robotic systems, they now use a water jet cutter that enable them to produce those parts in that kind of dimensional way versus on a traditional kind of machine. And I'll just flick through these because I don't think we've got that long left before we need to show the video. So the last two examples I'll talk about are great examples as to places that you can go to. So if anyone is at the end of this webinar who does use kind of CAD/CAM software, who is familiar with Autodesk and Autodesk's suite of products, they have a fantastic demonstration capability down in their centre near Birmingham. And that actually is a CNC robotics system. And that system has been designed and developed to enable them to have a flexible system that enables them to really prove out concepts. So in this system, we've done advanced machining, we've done advanced 3D printing, and there's been some work that has been demonstrated in a fantastic case study shared yesterday actually around the use of generative design and interfacing with this advanced technology. So if you're interested and if it's a field that you work in, it's really, really worth going down and looking at what is possible and, the demonstrations that can be done at Autodesk to really see how that could kind of benefit kind of your business or some of the people that you know within your network. Relativity Space are doing things on a really large scale. So as you can see on this picture, I don't know whether you can see here, this is actually a fuel kind of tanker for a space rocket, and next to the screen you'll be able to see a person. So in terms of the size and scale of the types of things that they're producing, so this is fully 3D printed. And we work with them with our advanced machining technology to be able to have that hybrid approach. And their objective is to be able to fully 3D print a rocket and send that into space. And they absolutely will do that. They're a huge powerhouse of innovation and technology, and are a great company to follow and watch, even just for some inspirational nuggets around, some of the applications. And this may be kind of completely different to the field that you're working in, but 3D printing and 3D printing using a robotic arm is becoming kind of more and more common. And, people within fixturing and molds are starting to really unlock that potential. And there's great examples of how this is already being used from an industrial perspective. And then finally, before we go into the video, my son's favourite is, I don't know whether we've got any ice sculptors on the phone, probably not. But one of my favourite systems is over in Norway. So if any of you guys have visited the ice hotel over there, they have one of our systems in a giant freezer. So it's a robot with a chainsaw on the end, which actually is a tool changing end that can move between kind of fine machining and actually chainsawing. And he uses this to be able to produce a large scale sculptures and components that he needs for a lot of the installations that they do. And there's some great videos watching this machine in action. Who would have thought that you would put a chainsaw on the end of a robot? So just to finish, just a bit of this talk, I'm going to leave you just with a little video so you can kind of see one of these systems in action. And then we'll kind of close with questions. But I would just urge you, even if this isn't kind of within your field, there's some absolutely fantastic innovations out there from a robotic perspective, and that some of them may or may not be relevant to you. But I'm more than happy to have any conversations with people around, how we can help and support, or how the wider network, within Make UK or Made Smarter, who I kind of support as well, can help you and your business really unlock what is possible through digital technologies. So if we just move over to the video now, I think hopefully this should be smooth.
Because of the type of material that we are processing, it produces a very high abrasive type of dust when cut. Because of the type of machines that we're using, they have a lot of exposed working parts, and with those working parts they wear considerably with the dust. So we were presented with a problem.
From an efficiency point of view, the dated machines that they currently had were a lot slower. Along the way they've lost accuracy, needed more routine maintenance.
We could see that robotic arms were actually being used with a routing attachment on the end of them. We started to understand robotics and then quickly decided that's the route we wanted to go down. We chose CNCR out of a group of other people that we were looking at the time, basically because of the relationship. We felt as if it was, albeit a smaller company, they would work closely with us to actually deliver the solution we wanted.
The question was always about CAD/CAM, and they said, well, do you work with CAD/CAM? We said, yeah, of course, we program robots with CAD/CAM all the time. Already being quite a heavy user of AlphaCAM, they said, can we keep our existing programs and existing software and integrate it into your new machine? There are quite a few challenges that need to be overcome, and one of those was essentially simulating the robot environment correctly.
So the solution that came together was that they could put their parts into AlphaCAM, they could simulate it in Robot.dk, and then the output from that file would then be able to be loaded onto the robot, and then the robot can process that and cut the parts.
In essence, they're taking their existing systems that they've got and redeveloping them into the robotics world.
It gives us full machine simulation, so we can see actively what the robot's going to do before we actually process parts on the machine. And because robots move at such a speed, it's a versatile tool to use. We brought engineers into CNC Robotics. Nick's team helped us to integrate between AlphaCAM, Robo.dk, and then test cut parts, which did take time, but we decided that the time's better taken here rather than use that time on the customer's site, and it was more of they can plug it in and everything's ready to move forward cutting parts, which really worked well.
The robots can often reach into difficult places that the machine normally wouldn't be able to, as well as cost. So we find a lot of our clients will compare eggs for eggs in this instance and say, well, actually the robot system is substantially or can be substantially cheaper than the alternative CNC machine.
The whole solution, because we were very much trying to buy a solution rather than just buy a robotic arm and software to operate it, it was a whole solution together. Within that desired solution, we can see many benefits. Health and safety reasons, we've got a contained cell, so therefore any dust that is emitted, it's drawn out from the cell. The cutting speeds are far quicker on the robot than they would be on the flatbed router.
The robot themselves can move 2 meters per second, which is rapid. But they had a significant improvement from their original process, which was very slow.
It's a step forward, and it's future-proofing, because the robot in itself, within the way it can work and the dexterity of it, will allow our designers to be able to design things in a different way and possibly have better ways of forming the insulation in the future.
So hopefully you found that kind of interesting and kind of food for thought. And, I really can't wait until we can do these in person, because I personally, I much prefer doing them in person. But if anyone does want to reach out and, come and see us, or if I can help in any way, please don't hesitate to be in touch. I think now it's questions, and if I'm right. Do we know if have we got any questions?
Hey, Matt, can you hear me?
Yeah, got you, Kieran. Yeah, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Yeah, good,
Cool.
good.
So yeah, if we want to just sort of see if we can get this screen share
Okay.
function for, oh no, actually we'll get rid of that.